Come on in. Oh, let's move you. There we go. Give everybody a moment to come on in. What's going on as everybody come in? Make sure you say what's up. Excuse me, hit that share button. We're going to get into it in just a moment. Will, what's up, my brother? How you doing? Man, we got to catch up soon. Vincent, what's up, my brother? How you doing? Hope you're having a good day. Y'all, again, as you come in the room, make sure you hit that share button. And, of course, let me know where you are, what city you're checking in from. So give me a what's up and let me know what city you're checking in from. And hit that share button. Hey, Yolanda, how you doing today? Hope you are having a good day. I know I am. The weather is getting better here in West Michigan, so I am excited. I'm excited about that. Again, as you come in or as you're watching, if you could, again, let me know where you're checking in from. Say hello and hit that share button. For those who don't know who I am, I'm Winfred Burns II. I'm the Money Mentor. I'm also the CEO of Global Drive Network, where we have radio and digital magazine. So my radio show, The Scoop, is on every, the Scoop radio show is on every Tuesday night. We have The Word on Wednesday, which is a weekly Bible study that my father does at 7 o'clock. Then we have Nouveau Exposure. We also, as a magazine. But I also do, again, my degree is in finance from Langston University, HBCU in Oklahoma. And so I've got about 15 since 2018, 17 years in the game. So, yeah, DFW does have a very hot housing market right now. Very hot. Very hot. So, which can be good and bad. So, all right, guys, we're going to get into it again. If you make sure you please hit the, what's up, Kendall? How you doing, my brother? Make sure you hit that share button. Again, make sure you tell me where you're checking in from, and also say what's up. So I've got a couple of things that we're going to talk today a little bit about renting versus borrowing. As you guys know, that's always a very interesting debate. Whether or not a person should rent, versus a person should buy. So I hope to make some sense for you, make some sense of this idea for you, or this process for you today a little bit. So all right, so renting versus, where'd you go? Hold on. There we go. All right. So everybody again asked the question, Winfred, should I rent? Should I borrow? Everybody wants to know what's better, renting. I hear a lot of people say, when you rent, you're paying somebody else to get rich versus when you buy, you're paying, it's your own money. You're making your own money and your own wealth. And to that extent, I tell people, first of all, that is in part true. It is in part true because, in theory, not in part, but in theory, that is a true statement. And when I say in theory, it's because there's a lot of factors that go into whether or not you're really making money on renting, making somebody else wealthy when you rent, or if you yourself are making money if you rent. A lot of that and there's a lot of gray areas, a lot of interesting factors that have to do with that. But what I really want to focus on today is how you should know whether or not you should rent or you should borrow. Rent or you should own. Owning typically comes with borrowing, because that's the thing that we need to talk about. Should you rent or should you borrow? And a couple of questions that you should answer yourself before you make that decision. So I'm gonna set out the gate. There really is no right or wrong choice whether to rent or to borrow. The question is what's best for you in your current situation and for your long-term situation. Okay, that is going to answer the question. I want you to check out the video of Beyonce's daddy telling people to leave. I saw that one way. I saw the video with him saying that, and Yeah, I saw that video. I think you tagged me in it last week or something like that, or somebody tagged me in it, but I did see that. Ramo, what's going on, brother? How you doing? Yeah, so yeah, I did see that one already. And again, there's a lot of gray to that. No, Keisha tagged me in that video. That's who it was. But again, I saw the video of Matthew Knowles saying that he rents property but lives himself in, he owns property but he himself lives in the rental. And that's something that you'll hear him say. I've heard, Grant Cardone say the same thing. There are a lot of people who say that. I've heard Robert Kiyosaki say the same thing. And again, I don't necessarily disagree with it. I just think, again, that it's some gray to the whether or not you do that versus when you don't do it. And the average person is really not looking to own rental property. And so, therefore, again, that makes that scenario very interesting. So, questions that you should answer before you determine for yourself whether or not you rent or buy. We're gonna get into it. I've got five things that you should look at before you make that decision. And then we'll go. I'll let you guys go. Okay. So the first question you need to ask yourself when making that determination is, how long do you expect to be in this house? So let me give you a reason why I say that. So when you buy a house, most people who buy a house, it used to be, when you bought a house, you bought it thinking that this is the house that you and your family were going to live in for the rest of your life until you retire, and then you would hand it down to your children or something like that, or you would sell it when you get to retirement and take the money the money that you made from the property, which is called equity, the equity in that property, and you would then use that as an investment vehicle to retire on. Also, this was done under the understanding that there could be a possibility some place down the road where you might need to borrow for starting a business or sending your kids to college or something like that, which, by the way, most small businesses are started off of second mortgages or equity lines of credit. And so you would live in a home for a longer period of time and you would get equity. So equity, of course, equity is the difference between the value of the house and what you owe on the house. So if you buy a house, if you have a house and it's worth $250,000 and you owe $200,000, then that $50,000 between what the house is worth and what you owe is your equity. Okay, so what some people do is they take that and they do stuff with it, a lot of different stuff. So you want to know, the problem is we now live in a time where people don't typically live in houses that long. So the average person now, according to statistics, lives in their home for no more than 7 years. The problem with that is if you are looking at your home as something that you can build equity in the first 7 years, unless you live in DFW, in some places in DFW, like Vince said, you're not going to build a ton of equity in your home. Why? Because if you look at a standard amortization table, and what amortization means, it's the way your payments go to principal and go to interest. So when you first buy a home, just like when you first buy a car, the majority, if not all, of your first several years payments go to interest. So again, using that same example, you buy a home for $200,000. When you first start making your mortgage payments, your balance, you're not going to see that balance, that $200,000 that you owe, go down, because your lender is going to get their interest up front. So all of those payments that you send in, they're going to the interest part of your mortgage and not the $200,000, using the example, the principal part of your payment. So if you live in this home for 5 years, then when you get ready to sell it, or you're going to try to look for, to pull out equity, you're going to find, again, unless you live in an area where the home prices are appreciating, you're not going to have any equity, okay? And some people will say, well, what if I do updates to it? Now that's where that great thing is. So if you buy a home, say for example, you buy, a fixer-upper or a home that you buy undervalue, which is the goal. You buy meaning if you buy a home that's worth $200,000 and you buy it for $150,000, that's great. That's phenomenal. But that doesn't happen a lot of times, okay? Unless you do something like that, again, you're going to go into this property and you're not going for 5 years and you're not going to have equity. So in an instance like that, if your goal, if you know that you're not going to be somewhere for a long period of time, there could be a potential that and you're not going to make any equity, and it might make better sense for you to rent during that period so you can save more money and possibly go and buy something when you're in a place where you're going to be for a longer period of time. Okay, so that's something to think about. Again, I'm not telling you don't buy or don't rent. That's not my goal today. My goal today is to get you to see that every time renting is not the answer and every time buying is not the answer. You have to determine based on your goals, your needs, where you're talking about doing, where you are in your life cycle. You need to determine what's the best decision for yourself. Again, if you haven't hit the share button, please hit the share button, okay? And then again, let me know, like I said, where you guys are checking in from. So hit that share button for me. You guys can comment too, it's okay. I'm fine with that. So the number 2 thing you need to think about is, can you really afford the home that you actually want to buy? In my years of being on the other side, there's a lot of people. What's up, Lamont? How you doing? James, how you doing? James, how you doing? Again, guys, as you come and hit the share button, if you got any comments or questions, put them up there. Make sure you say hello, and again, tell me where you're checking in from. So again, the second thing is, can you really afford? Is this the home that you really want to buy? Because a lot of times when we go into homes, we have to go into a home based upon what we can afford. And we have to go into a home thinking that there are some additional costs and some additional expenses that come with owning a home. And so are we really prepared? So and the problem is, let me say this, the problem is when you go to your lender is typically, unless they're good and they really care, and your realtor, unless they're good and they care, is not going to remind you that, hey, you have some expenses that are about to go up. So even they're going to just tell you, based upon what an underwriter says, this is how much home you can afford. But you got to be able to take a step back and say, okay, I know they're saying I can afford a $200,000 house, but based on these additional expenses, I know I need to stay in the 150 price range, okay? So can you really afford the type of home that you want to buy, okay? And so when I say that, I'm saying because, again, there is the probability that renting a home for another year or another 2 years could mean that you're able to put a little bit more money to the side, and so you can save more money and be more comfortable going into the house. One of the worst things that could happen, not one of the worst things, but one of the most uncomfortable things, is you get into the home that you want, you get into the home, and all of a sudden you now realize that you can't afford it, and it takes a toll on not just your life, but on your family, because now you're not able to maintain the property. And so if you can't maintain the property, then it affects the property value. If you can't maintain the property value, then again, that affects the equity in your property, because you could potentially, by not taking care of your home, be driving down the property value, not just of your home, but of your community. So that's something you got to think about. Is this the home I really want? And can I really afford this home at this time, or do I need to save up a little bit more money in order to do that? Okay, yeah, Teresa, we call it house poor. That's exactly what we call it. And just like we call it, some people we call it hood rich when you have a really, but anyway, we ain't gonna talk about that today. All right, number 3, the number three thing to look at is, do you have an unstable work situation? What do I mean by an unstable work situation? Well, are you in a career or in a field where you are where there's no stability. So you could be working this month and not working next month. You could be, here for 6 months and off for 6 months, and you really don't know where you're really supposed to be. One of the benefits of renting is that you have fixed expenses. So if you are renting, that every month you're going to have to pay that $1,000, that $1,000 rent, and that's it. You don't have to be concerned about if the boiler, the hot water heater, the stove, the roof leaks. There's some mold, the foundation cracks. You don't have to worry about if property taxes go up. You don't have to worry about, in some instances, yard maintenance. All of that is covered by the owner of the property. And so if you're not in a position where your finances are stable, then renting until you do have a little bit more stability, or until you have more liquid cash set aside for this, could be a better thing for you to do, so you can be better prepared to go into a property. So if your work situation is unstable, then renting could be a better option for you, because you don't know, tornado hitting, exactly, because you don't really know exactly where you are. And hey, Teresa, I'm glad you joined us. And if you are thinking about buying and you have an unstable work history, I'm going to be honest, it's going to be more difficult, a work situation. It can be more difficult to find a lender, because lenders are typically going to look at trends to determine, or underwriters are going to look at trends to determine whether your credit worthiness. So you need to necessarily look for, hey, Teresa, both Teresas, how y'all doing? So you have to think about that as well. Again, guys, if you're just joining late, make sure you say what's up, and then obviously hit the share button for me as well, okay? The number four thing you want to look at is, do you actually have enough money to buy? So it costs to buy a house, y'all. It costs to buy a house. Depending on the prerequisites of the lender, or whoever you're getting your financing from, there are things that you have to pay for. You've got to pay for, you got to remember, moving expenses cost, appraisal fees cost, down payment, closing costs. All of those things are costs that you have to take into consideration when you are going into buying a house. So are you prepared with all of that? Again, like I said earlier, are you prepared for the increase in your electric bill? Are you prepared for having to cut your own grass? And lawnmowers, well, typically lawnmowers are not cheap. So are you ready to pay for those types of things? Are you ready to shovel your own snow if you live in the north like I do? All of those things are things that you need to think about. So do you have the money allocated for those types of purchases? And again, when you're looking at something like a down payment, that's going to be determined a lot by your credit score, which brings me to my fifth thing. The fifth thing you need to consider is your credit score. So if you are in a position where your credit score is low, then you need to let that be a determining factor in whether or not you are ready to buy, or whether you should continue, or whether you should rent. Because the lower your credit score, the higher your interest rate is going to be, or the higher your fees are going to be. Okay, I'm going to say it again. The lower your credit score, typically, the higher your interest rate is going to be, and the higher your fees are going to be. Because, and the reason I say that is, you can get a higher interest rate and buy it down, which are called points. You can buy it down, but that's a cost. So if you don't have that money to buy down this interest rate, you can go into a property, A, that you really don't want, or B, that you really do want, that costs you a whole lot more than what you have to pay for it. And what do you mean? The price is still the same, but the higher your interest rate, the more interest you are going to pay. Okay, and that interest rate, y'all, if y'all ever look at an amortization statement, it could be pretty scary if you realize you're buying $200. I think I did a scenario where it's like $200,000 house, and you wind up paying another $75,000, $80,000, $100,000 just in interest over a 30-year period. So you're really paying $300,000 for a $200,000 house, but that's the game. So a lower interest rate lowers the cost of going into a home as well as it lowers the interest rate that you will pay, which again means more money in your pocket, more money to save, more money to invest. So it's just a better overall deal. Okay, so you want to spend time if you have a low credit score. And when I say low credit score, I'm saying people are going to tell you a different number. I am going to say anything below a 650, spend the time to get it up and get that thing above a 650, because you'll get better interest rates. If you get that joker up to a 700, then you'll get best rates possible and put yourself in a position where you are able to get the best interest rates, the lowest cost, put yourself in a position to buy the home that you really want. Again, so a good credit score, having good cash on hand is going to put you in a position where you could really make some money. Again, for the African American community, especially over the course of our history in this country, real estate has been the primary way that we have made or increased our wealth. That hasn't changed. And coming off of a depression that we've experienced in a lot of markets, there are still a lot of homes that are undervalued, or as we see interest rates go back up, you'll start to see inflationary things happen that we'll start to see some property values go up too. Like John said, and that's not just in DFW. There are some spaces and some places that have really good homes that are available that are not as expensive as we think. But again, we also have to look at it as it's happening. Taxes and stuff are going to go up. So all of this stuff you got to take into consideration. All of this stuff we need to be thinking about. But it doesn't make sense to have a sale, which is in essence what happens if you don't have the money to take advantage of a sale. And that's what I want. I don't ever, y'all, the worst thing to do is walk into a store, see them shoes that you always wanted on sale, and you know that it's a difference. I could buy these shoes on sale, and these are the ones I want, or I can pay my rent. I can buy it, and that's in essence what I don't want to happen. I want, if you see the home that you want, I want your credit to be in place. I want your cash reserves to be in place so you can say, okay, now we're ready. Let's make a move. Let's make a decision and put your family in a better situation, okay? Or in the situation that you want to be in. So I hope that helped. Again, I hope that helped you and gave you some information that you might not have had before, because again, ultimately my goal is to help you, and then y'all help me. We help each other, because I don't do this for free. Anyway, so, all right, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them on the screen, and I will answer them. Let me make sure I didn't miss any. If you didn't, please, again, hit the share button. Let's see, what did James say? Even renting a house way above most single income, renting an apartment is safer than most. Again, in some instances, there's definitely a way to rent, too, so that's, you don't necessarily, just because you're renting doesn't mean you can't pay too much. You're correct, James. You want to make sure that you get a good price. I know people who should be renting, not buying, because the bills and maintenance with the house are killing their bank account, and even with two income. Yeah, that's true. That is definitely true. The issue with buying a home in Texas is the property tax can take you out of your home due to the appraisals. And that's true. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the hard parts that's also a part of the process. Again, it's every year. If you go into a house that you can just barely afford. And so what he's referring to is, so every year when you're in a home, the county that you live in will reassess the properties. And if the property value goes up, then what and the county wants to meet their budget goals or whatever they're trying to do, they can go up on your taxes. And if they go up on your taxes, then ultimately that means your property, your mortgage payment goes up, okay? Because you're not just paying principal and interest. When you buy a home, you then have to pay, maintenance and upkeep, but you also have to pay property taxes. Every year you pay it. Even if you pay the home off and buy it in cash, you still every year have to pay property taxes. Okay. Hey Christina. Hey Shalita, how you doing? I miss you. April, how you doing, guys? Again, if you guys have Terry, how you doing? If you guys have not hit the share button, please do. Let's see. Wait, what did you say? Great topic. Thanks, Teresa. I appreciate it. Yeah, 700 is the number you want to get to again, and it's doable, guys. Let's see. Wade says you also got to be thinking about the insurance bad areas have higher rates, even if you could find a good mortgage. That's true. Again, that's definitely true. Homeowners insurance is more expensive. Any insurance is expensive. Auto insurance, you're definitely correct. That's one of the reasons why having a good credit score is important, because typically, not all the time, this is definitely not but typically people with better credit scores live together. And so what happens is there are certain assumptions that are made about people who live in certain neighborhoods. That if you live or can afford to live in said neighborhood, then you'll see that you'll start getting pre-approved credit cards, pre-approved auto loans, pre-approved, because what the assumption that companies make is that if you can afford to live in this really nice area, then you must have either a higher income or you have higher credit. And so they will try to market to you under those assumptions. And so, of course, insurance prices are lower because, again, nicer neighborhoods typically, not all the time, have lower crime rates. Not that they have lower crime, but lower crime rates. And so that's just an assumption. So you are correct. Auto insurance really sucks. Auto insurance is horrible in Michigan, but we are that's a different story. Let's see, any other questions or comments? So, all right, guys, so before we get off of here really quick, I am on summer break now. For those who don't know, I'm a seminary. I'm working on my MDiv. But so if you are interested in learning how to fix your credit, then I do have a course that you can take. It's a DIY. I call it DIY Fix Your Credit. If you're interested in that, please let me know. It costs $47, and in it I give you everything you need, all of the letters that you need to fix your own credit. So all of the letters I give you. It's a little over 1 hour video where I walk you through the process, and then it's also I give you all the letters that you need to send into the credit bureaus to dispute things, to have things taken off your credit report. If you have collections items on your credit report, then how you handle that process. I walk you through all of that. Again, it's $47. If you're interested, let me know. And again, I will get that to you. So other than that, again, hit the share button if you haven't. If you have any questions that I wasn't able, hey, Miss Scott, how you doing? Scott Wright, excuse me. Then y'all hit me up if you have any questions or comments. And as always, I will see you all later. Have a good rest of your day.